morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So I lean on you when I've lost my way. I keep holding on for a better day. I lean on you when the world's astray. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. In times that are changing and when hope is fading, I know I can turn to your embrace. 'Cause there's so much beauty under your heaven, and I'm grateful every day. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So I lean on you when I've lost my way. I keep holding on for a better day. I lean on you when the world's astray. I left my heart open so you hear my prayer. I left my heart open so you hear my
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. Hey, Dutchie. Now, Dutchie, if you want to come up, honey, just grab the link. CLK, thank you for being here. And everybody, welcome my panel guest, Arctic Fox.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Art. So tonight we're going to be, hey, Michelle, if y'all feel like it, just grab the link. I left it in Discord. But tonight we're going to recap the case of Otis Randall Abner, aka Ball Abner. We've went over transcripts on this channel. We've went over the police report. And tonight I'd like to just be able to have a stream where we can collectively kind of talk about the case and see what we think about it so far. Hey, Nicole. I saw Michelle's name and I was saying hi to Nicole. I done said hi to Michelle. Oh, this case, I was telling Arctic, before we came on, it always gets my nerves up. I do understand that this is probably, to me, as far as my personal feeling, the most important case that I'll ever cover on my channel, because it is my uncle. And I never don't want to do it justice, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's hard to talk about a case that's this close to you too, because you get emotional trying to talk about these cases, especially when it involves your own family.
Yes, 100%. And Arctic, I kind of pride myself on somebody that tries to stay neutral, but with a case that is so close to you and you have lived it just about your whole life, for 37 years now, it's so hard. It is so hard to keep, personal feelings out of it. And I've even questioned myself in the past. Well, was I putting too much speculation in that, but I do feel like that I have kept this open. And when I say that, this is why. Because all my life until I got these FOIA requests back, I was dead set on one person that I'd been told my whole life that did this. And going through this, people, I'm going to be honest with you. Personally, I don't feel like that no longer. Do I think that they were all involved? Yes. But do I think the person that I thought my whole life pulled the trigger? No, I don't. And I mean, like I said, I've went my whole life thinking one person did this, because you've got to understand, in my family, the females would talk about this case, but the men didn't very often at all. If my dad talked about what happened, it was few and very few between that he did. But for those of you that don't know, on September the 10th of 1987, 37 years ago, my uncle's alleged friend, Marlo, and his girlfriend's son, Jeff, came to his house around 9 o'clock, 9:30. It was mentioned that they were going to go and rob a pot patch. Now, this is just what was said. I don't believe all this. So my uncle goes and gets his girlfriend, wakes her up. She's awake when they first get there, according to her. Wakes her up. They go to the cemetery. Marlo and Jeff get there first. My uncle comes up onto the cemetery, turns around like he's coming back off the cemetery, is there for a very short period of time, and he's shot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because my channel is not monetized. Someone took a 20 gauge sawed-off shotgun and shot him in the head, taking his life. His girlfriend was in the vehicle with him. She gets out of that vehicle, gets in a vehicle with Marlo and Jeff, goes to her other son's house, takes a shower, and then they end up calling the law. Now, when the law first got there, Jean, who was his girlfriend at the time, said that her and my uncle went up there alone, that they were going to rob, and I'm doing air quotes, a marijuana patch at this cemetery, and that somebody started shooting. She climbed over the seat, went out the back window, ran down the mountain, caught the first ride, and they took her to her son Robert's house. Well, when questioned on that, because of evidence that was found at the scene, evidently, then she retracted that statement and said, well, Jeff and Marlo rode up there. When we got up there, shortly after, someone shot Ball, and that's what I will be calling him because that's what we knew him by. Somebody shot Ball. She was freaking out, left her shoes, but remembered to grab the beer in the floorboard because that would calm her nerves, and climbed over the back seat, went out the window. Now, that's two stories that was told. But then when she gets on the stand to testify, she said she went over the back of the seat and that her son Jeff opened up the door and said, we've got to get out of here, Mommy. And she gets in the vehicle with them, and then they go to her other son, Robert's house. Okay, that's 3 stories already. Regardless, and everybody was saying that Marlo was the shooter, that he was shot with a 20 gauge sawed-off shotgun. And like I said, my whole life, that's who I thought had done it. But like I said, none of these people could tell a straight story if they had a ruler. Hey, Victoria. So during the transcripts, we've seen quite a bit of inconsistencies, haven't we, Arctic?
To say the very least, we've seen inconsistencies.
Now, one thing that has always been a red flag with me is the fact that they left the cemetery, went to her son's house, and she took a shower. Now, then when they called a particular state trooper, not just called dispatch like you did in 87. You called 0. They tell them what was going on. They put you through to who you needed to be to. That is that's how 911 calls was placed back in the day. You didn't have 911 and say, I need the police. You called 0 and the operator connected you. No, they called this particular officer directly. Asked for him directly. There's 2 different statements about that too. But he never asked for their clothes. And it seems like from Jump Street, he just took Gene and Jeff's word on who the trigger guy was.
Absolutely.
It was almost like they want, and it's almost like they just want people to believe, hey, he got up there and at the spur of the moment, they were going to go rob this pot patch. And at the spur of the moment, he just decided to kill Uncle Bob.
The fact that Jean, the first thing she did was take a shower, and the fact that she's been so dishonest and her story ever changing more often than most people change their underwear, makes her my prime suspect as to who shot Ball.
Well, I think me and you are on the same thinking on that, because I told you that when I was uploading these pictures as to what I wanted to show, that something stuck out to me. First of all, y'all, I'm going to show y'all something. Here is a better picture of my Uncle Ball. His daughter sent this to me not too long back. But in this picture, this guy with a cigarette in his mouth is my dad. I happen to know that my dad was 6'5", 6, 7. I mean, somewhere right around through there. He had to dunk down to come into my house. Now, if you look at Uncle Ball, they're both leaning to the side, right?
Yes, ma'am.
He's not. I mean, he's shorter than my dad, but not that much.
No. I mean, if they were standing up back to back, he might be 3 or 4 inches shorter, max.
Yes. Now, this is a picture of my Uncle Ball's vehicle from the crime scene photos that was sent to me. Look how close that seat is. Let me get it pulled up a little better here. Look how close this seat is to those that gas pedal or brake. That seat is like plumb under the steering wheel.
There's no way in hell Ball drove that car like that. I'm sorry.
And I mean, we've looked at these pictures quite a bit, have we not?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I know how my dad was when he got in my vehicle. He always had that back seat, that front seat almost back to the back. It would be when I would get in it, it would feel like I was laying down trying to drive after he had maneuvered the seat.
Well, and it's like I told you before the live. My brother is 6'1", and in order for him to ride in my car, he has to put the seat all the way back.
Exactly. And this, I'm sorry, but this right here looks like a short person was driving this vehicle. Am I wrong? What do you all think? Fly says, that's my sit position, and I'm 5'2".
But I will say this,
Duchess
that's a bench
says,
seat. That's a bench seat. So I don't see Ball being able to even be on the passenger side of that car.
no, but if you're driving, are you going to sit that seat? Especially if the passengers that is with you that night is as sleepy as she claims she was. Are you going to sit that seat to where you can drive comfortably, or where the passenger's person could sit comfortably?
Oh, no, you're going to put it, especially if she's that short, she's going to put it all the way to the front. If Ball was driving the car, he'd have it all the way back so that he'd be comfortable.
Exactly. And I have said from Jump Street that this does not look like a vehicle where somebody's brains was blowed out in it. It sure doesn't fit the description of what she said it looked like when she left the vehicle that night. Because you would think there would be blood all around here, because she said she was sitting in the passenger seat and she got brain matter in her hair. And that there was blood all over the back seat and on the ceiling of the vehicle. That is not what we see in these pictures. Not at all. There is the blood that you see. And that's almost a smear, in my opinion. Again, I'm not an expert. This, I wonder, did they take a fingerprint right up here? Because that almost looks like somebody putting their hand on the inside. Come on, mommy. We've got to get out of here. It don't look like she described it at all, in my opinion. And these pictures have always bothered me. Now, we had Lori on the channel, and she said they didn't give me all the pictures because the scene that she saw was horrific. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
It really makes me wonder, because I've always had a problem with the lack of blood that is in this vehicle. It's always bothered me. And I know I'm no expert on blood splatter patterns or anything like that. I'm just a country girl that wants answers for her uncle's murder. That's all I am.
Well,
I think her family deserves it.
You don't have to be an expert on blood splatter to know that if someone gets shot in a vehicle with a shotgun, there's going to be blood all over the damn car. And that's just not the case here.
No, that's not what we see. And like I said, it's almost like it was looking at us the whole time. But let me see here. Let me see if I can find it right quick. But that right there, that seat is sitting directly, it's sitting underneath that steering wheel.
Honestly,
Do you know,
whoever was driving that car, I don't even see how they drove. because that steering wheel's literally coming up over the seat. That had to be pressed into whoever was driving the car.
Not if you was about 110-pound woman.
Well, that's true too. That is true.
You know, from the time I learned how to drive, and you've got to keep in mind, my dad and his brothers raised their siblings. Their mom passed away on Christmas when they were very young. Their dad was in prison. So one worked, one cooked, one cleaned. I mean, they raised their sisters. And when my dad taught me how to drive, if I got right up on that steering wheel, he would pitch a fit. I mean, and to this day, my brother will still do me like that. You're sitting way too close to that steering wheel. Of course, now you got airbags. But my dad always said, Crystal, if you wreck, that steering wheel is going to hurt you. Don't be right up on your steering wheel. I imagine they all weren't the same way. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
And this is somebody clearly sitting right up on that steering wheel. Wasn't he found in the car, though? Yes, he was. But my question is this, Michelle, didn't she also say that he was still sitting up when she left the vehicle, that he could have slumped over afterwards? I mean, there would be blood in that car if he was took up there in it. And all I see in these pictures are smears. Now, another thing that has always bothered me with this case, for years, I tried to get the FOIA on it. And I got the runaround. I mean, when I say that I could not get the transcripts to the trial, anything, I am not joking, you all. And I was talking to Michelle and Duchess one day, and Michelle said, well, I'll try to get it. So she sent it for you, and they gave her a runaround and a half. First of all, they didn't even know what the Freedom of Information Act was, or open records request, or they acted like they didn't. Then they said it was in Frankfurt. Well, then she had to call Frankfurt, who said no. In 2011, they requested that the originals be sent back to Knox County. So she calls back Knox County and tells them what Frankfurt says. The lady on the phone says, well, I can't find them. Well, at that point, because she did this under Duchess discussion, not anything with my name on it. She said, well, it looks like this is going to have to be a case about the covering the corruption. I'll try to keep your name out of it. The lady puts her on hold, and less than a minute comes back and says it's on my desk. But now I have to get down there and get it, because by 3 o'clock, they're going to send it back to Frankfurt, even though they hadn't sent it back since 2011. And when I showed up, it was like all the blood ran out of their face. And I can see why, because, yeah, Michelle, true story. And I can see why, because for years, I tried to get this. I was not the person they was expecting to come in that courthouse. And throughout the transcripts, there's pages missing. Although you do in these see pictures of the crime scene, I would be lying if I didn't say the majority of the pictures, like, this is the crime scene, of course, but I don't even know if I uploaded it are pictures like this of his house. Why, if these are supposed to be crime scene photos, why did we get all these pictures? Another thing, put a 1 in chat if you think this is a 20 gauge sawed off shotgun. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't think that it is. Because you got to keep in mind, somebody's sitting right here in front of it. That barrel goes longer. COK says, I told you the other night, a county next to us is so corrupt. Well, I mean, that, in my opinion, is the case here too. They, from Jump Street, they went on the word of Jean and her son. Of course, those two are going to say the other person did it. And they just tried to prosecute a case. They botched it. There's now all the evidence is destroyed. They destroyed the gun. They destroyed every piece of evidence at KSP, which is Kentucky State Police. Even though now with this case, the first trial, they found Marlowe guilty. But like a year later, he got a whole new retrial because of a jury member and found not guilty. Now, when I ask, well, why isn't this an open case? And it's on the channel. I taped the conversation. I was pretty much told because, well, they thought they got the right guy the first time. They just weren't able to prosecute him. Which I think is baloney. Because 3 people was on that cemetery. All 3 people should have stood accountable for it. I was about to say the same thing, Duchess. Okay, what am I missing? Neither, Dutch. I don't understand why they destroyed it because I'm 37 years later and nobody has done a time over killing my uncle. Karma's bit a bunch of people in the hind end, but nobody has been made accountable for pulling that trigger. Okay, I'm gonna a second. Any thoughts? Arctic, does this not make you wonder, like,
I've got a lot of
people
thoughts. Number one, why would they destroy evidence? Period. When they hadn't had a conviction. First conviction got overturned, so you still have someone out there that committed this crime. Why would you destroy the evidence? Also, I have to wonder if she was sleeping with someone on the police force because of how just terribly mishandled this case was. Because it seems like the police did everything in their power to practically cover up whoever did this. The crime scene wasn't processed properly, in my opinion. The crime scene photos are a goddamn joke. And then they go and they destroy every piece of evidence they have so that no one can later be prosecuted for it.
Exactly. The thing that gets me, no, it was in Knox County, Duchess. The thing that gets me is, and I didn't know this till later, but it was rumored that when my uncle, see, prior to this, my uncle and Jeff had got into a fight. During this fight, my uncle did stab Jeff. Jeff was a bigger guy. I mean, just to be honest with you, even at the age that he was at, he was like a grown man. You've also saw the pictures. But my uncle went to jail for that. And during that time, guess who Jean was seeing? Marlo.
Hmm.
Now, another thing that I cannot help but notice is, and I don't know if I've even mentioned it on live, but it took years for them to prosecute Marlo in a case that had happened 3 years before this. A burglary case that happened 3 years before this. He wasn't prosecuted until he got off on this case for that other case. Now, when I say these people have a history of crime, I mean, Duchess can tell you, we looked at it, didn't we, Duchess? It's a rap sheet, article and a half. But guess what? None of them done no time for it. Now, when we do start reading the rest of the transcript, you're going to notice 2 words that is mentioned quite a bit. Confidential informant. Now, people can say whatever they want. I live in a small town, okay? I know how it goes here. They depend on their confidential informants. They protect them. And you've got a lot of people saying that in these transcripts coming up. A confidential informant told me where the gun was. A confidential informant called me. The confidential informant's friend was Jeff Crawford. Another thing, and Arctic, you've covered enough cases. You know that I am dead on with this one because Michelle just put it in chat. You get a whole list of the people that showed up at the crime scene. You get a whole list of the people that investigated this case. Guess what didn't? Knox County. The Knox County Police. You don't see them showing up. You don't see where they had their notes. The only thing from the county that showed up was the coroner. Other than that, Kentucky State Police, which is our TBI, you all, Kentucky State Police took over from Jump Street, from that phone call. Now, have you ever heard of that before? I mean, they assist, but have you ever heard of them coming in from Jump Street and taking over the case?
No. No, usually it's like pulling teeth to get the locals to bring them in when families are trying to figure out what's going on. But I've never seen them just rush out there, Johnny on the spot, and take over an entire investigation.
Well, in this case, they did, which was extremely odd, in my opinion. I do think things work the way they do for a reason. Now, had I been able to get these FOIA requests back when I first started trying to get it, I would not have understood that article. But being able to watch all these other cases makes that stand out to me. Like, you've got people begging for TBI to take over Summers' case. You got people begging in all these other cases for them to do the same thing. We're assisting, but the county is the lead investigators on the case. Not in this one. Yeah. Yep. KSP it's like our TBI. Dutchie, you and Michelle want to come up? You all know as much about this case as me just about now. I try to keep an open mind, and I don't want to go down the speculation rabbit hole too much. A lot of what I'm saying though is not speculation. It is stuff that has been put in court documents. It's stuff that's been documented. Another thing here, I'll just show this right quick. Okay, let's go through these pictures a second. Okay. Like I said, that's not a sawed-off shotgun. This is what the 17-year-old boy looked like. Pretty much a grown man. They made them different back in 87, y'all. This is my uncle's living room. Now, all through this, we hear them talk about a rolled cigarette. It's actually in this ashtray. There's a better picture here in a minute. That I'm still not convinced isn't a gun. I'm not convinced of it. It may not be one. I'm just saying what I think it looks like. This is a rolled cigarette. My uncle didn't smoke rolled cigarettes. Only Jeff did, evidently. But this is a whole lot of pictures of, and there's more of. Then you got this. He was arrested on the 11th with a warrant. This is the items of property items. But look, FS, which was Floyd Souders. You'll see it in other documents. Signed. Look at that amount. They went looking for $5, $2 all day long. You ain't convincing me they had that much money.
And this is 80s money. That amount today would be almost double that.
Well, if somebody had that much money on them, Arctic, it would be over 11 pounds. You can't put that much money in your billfold.
Well, no. I mean, there's no way.
Now, here is another item that I find very, very odd. Of course, the issuing officer, Floyd Souders. This subpoena was served by delivery of true copy to, and this is where they're supposed to sign for it, Denver and Georgia Abner. First of all, this is not my daddy's signature. Not even close. My dad barely could write his name. He learned to write his name when I learned to write mine. Did Georgia forget how to spell her name? And guess what? Georgia isn't my mama. That's my aunt. Why would they be on the same subpoena? So that's a forgery. I can say that with 100% certainty. But here is another thing. Clark Floyd Souders subpoenaed himself.
Jesus.
Himself. Now, is that legal? I don't think so. But right there it is. Let me see here. May have to go back this way. Yeah, that's some of the transcripts. Let me see here. Which one is that? I see why I put it in here first. Okay, this was another inconsistency. We haven't got to this part yet, so I'm going to explain this right quick. We are told from Jeff's written statement that when he got up there, he had lost his lighter, first of all. And He had just rolled a cigarette. He went to Uncle Ball's, the door of Uncle Ball's car, asked him for a light. Instead of getting that light right away, he went back to get his beer. On his way back to Marlowe's vehicle, he heard a gunshot, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's cross-examined here, and I do believe that this is in the second trial, but let me see here. When you were at the cemetery and you say that you saw Marlowe with a shotgun, how far away from Marlowe were you? Answer. Say that again. How far away from Marlowe were you when you just told Mr. Handy here that you saw Marlowe Brock with a shotgun? How far away from him were you when you saw that shotgun? Look at this. Well, I was standing right beside the passenger side of his car. What? That is not what we read. No, he was walking back towards that car, according to him. Not that he was standing beside the passenger side, because also, let me show you this. I went up there. My car is parked in this picture about where my Uncle Ball was. Yes, the cemetery has been, it's bigger now. They've had to extend it out, took the fence down. But this little mock-up car here is about where I figure Marlowe's vehicle was. Now, if he was walking back, and that's from their description of where they parked that night, if he was walking back to that vehicle, my vehicle was parked exactly how my uncle's car was parked, how would he have not saw him coming with a gun? I mean,
That's
it
a
looks
very
like to
good
me
point.
you would have seen that. I mean, I would have thought I would have saw somebody. But now here is the big kicker. And then I'll look at the chat. I'll take your questions, do my best to answer best to my ability. Artie, why did they say they were up there in the first place? To steal marijuana, right?
Yep.
To this day, there is not a street light up there. If I went down there right now, I wouldn't be able to see to the front of my vehicle. I mean, it's that dark if my lights was off. Not one time do they mention flashlights. At one point, they even asked Jeff, did you all take flashlights? So they're going to steal a marijuana patch, but they ain't going to take no lights to do it with at 11 o'clock at night. Make that make sense. You would have to be able to see. You would have to know the terrain around here. And you'd have to know how it is down here at this cemetery. First of all, back then, a lot of people parked till this day, they still do some, park there to either make out or do drugs. Why would you go somewhere that people park a lot at night if you're going to steal marijuana? That's a gamble. And you're going to go there without lights? When you have like a ravine on both sides of that cemetery, you're going to go there without lights. That dog don't hunt.
And that's, I'm not buying that they go to a cemetery to steal marijuana at no rate anyway. I haven't seen any pictures of this marijuana patch that they were supposedly going to steal the marijuana from.
Nope. And you would think that why didn't the cops look for one? Why ain't that anywhere in their notes? Either we searched the area and found a marijuana patch, or we searched the area and didn't. That's never documented, y'all. Well, true, Michelle. And I'll tell you this, something about a marijuana patch. People ain't going to be putting it right beside of a graveyard where it can be found. That used to be a big source of people's income. They didn't necessarily have to smoke marijuana to grow it and sell it. They hid those patches. Hey, Trixie. So, I mean, why would you put a marijuana patch right where everybody visits often? I mean, this ain't a little private cemetery. There's a lot of different families that has
Not
family
only that,
buried up there.
but think about what you just said earlier. People go there to make out and to what? Do drugs. Why would you put a
Do
marijuana
drugs.
patch where people are going to be doing drugs?
You're not going to. I mean, it makes no sense. That's like putting a bottle in a baby's crib and saying, don't drink that. I mean, you're not going to do it. And like I said, you know, and I hate for this to come across like this is a career, but a lot of people that grew marijuana, especially back in the 80s, they lived off of that money for a while. They wasn't risking their marijuana patch getting stole. So you sure ain't going to put one beside a cemetery where everybody could see it, even turn it in and have it cut down for that matter. In Kentucky, you hide them in the cornfields from the helicopters. Yep, since it has the same properties and it's hard to tell the difference. And you put them in the top of the mountain where it's like thick. Ask me how I know this. Because guess who else used to grow marijuana? My daddy. And I know how he done it. He did it with one humongous big cell, which makes me think that they may have been meeting him up there to buy marijuana. People had said the day before that my uncle had just sold a vehicle that he had all kinds of money on him. Yet when on the 10th, the very next day, he didn't have a dime. The amount of marijuana that was found inside of his trunk was a very small amount. Let me see if I got that uploaded here. Let me see. Yeah, right here. Just a second. I'm going to have to zoom in on this one. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Where'd you go? Bear with me. I'm going to have to go back this way. Right here in this far right corner by this, I call it the little X that you change your tire with. Yep, that's what they found. That's marijuana.
If I was going to steal marijuana, it'd be a whole fuck of a lot more than that. And B, I certainly wouldn't put it just in the trunk without any type of bag or anything like that. That marijuana, in my opinion, that you see right there was planted.
Could be. It very well could have been. But now I will say this. If he was selling it, that trunk was full. Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly, crazy. That's barely enough for a good joint.
Yeah. I don't smoke weed, but it don't look like much to me. I'm just saying. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think so, Michelle. It was in Hawkins County. Okay, what am I missing? Just a second. Bear with me, y'all. Everybody knows that I'm real easy sidetracked. So normally when I'm talking, I'll look away from the chat because if I don't, I'll go in 10 different directions. Promise you. Let's see. I lived in Kentucky, was robbed, and got the IP address for the computer that they stole. When they went online, got it. Oh, that was very smart. Yeah, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't get justice at all. I can say this, whoever pulled the trigger knew to kill him. Because he would have got even. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like he was a saint. I've never one time said he was. But he did not deserve to be murdered on a cemetery. Nobody does. Okay. No, Trixie, they don't. And, you know, I'm his niece. I've got fond memories of my uncle. He was always real good to me. Now, my dad was also, though, the type of person that demanded respect. So it wasn't like I would have been able to see anybody being disrespectful because my dad just didn't tolerate nothing like that. But my Uncle Ball also has kids. He's got grandkids that never got to meet him. And I've told this on here before. We used to have a little store down here, and back then you could do credit. And when my parents would get paid, they go in and pay that credit up. Well, if we were ever down there at the store and Uncle Ball was down there, whatever we were getting, he'd pay for. And 9 times out of 10, barbecue Grippos was something that I want. Well, they used to have this little girl buy this like cooking pot on the bag, and her name was Susie Q. So my uncle started calling me and my sister Susie Q. It was just a nickname that stuck with us. Turtle fries. I mean, that's stuff I remember about him. I don't like the man that got in a fight and stabbed Jeff. That wasn't the person that I was around. Does that make sense, Arctic? I mean, I don't know how any other way to describe it. I know he didn't take
It
no
makes
credit.
perfect sense to me. I mean, I believe that Ball was probably a very loving, kind man around his family. But if someone decided that they wanted to try to mess with him, he wasn't going to take no shit because he was a country redneck and he'd stand up for himself. I mean,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He was very protective over his family, which you seen Lori on here, and she was talking about him teaching her how to fish, and I don't think that she sugarcoated anything. She told everybody, you know, my dad wasn't perfect. The biggest, he never hurt nobody though. the people that he hurt was his own family. And a lot of that, I mean, is my Aunt Gladys, which was actually my Uncle Ball's wife till he died. She was one of the best women you want to lay eyes on. She was one of them women that when you went to her house, you was eating before you left. She was going to try to feed you. Didn't matter what time of the day it was, she'd try to feed you. She didn't want nobody leaving hungry. And my Uncle Ball was that same way, because this very night, the people that got him to go onto that cemetery, do you know what he done? He fed them. It's in their testimony. He made beef stew and he fed them. No, he wasn't perfect, but now he wasn't taking no crap off nobody either. None of the boys would. Let me see here. Makes perfect sense. My son, when he was alive, would do wrong to people, but never to me. I was his mama, and no one messed with his mama. Yeah. Could he have been dealing on someone else's stuff? My Uncle Ball done a lot of things in his life. Steele was never one of them.
No, I think she's asking. What they're asking is, could he have been in another dealer's territory?
Oh no, it's not like that around here. If I'm being honest, if people was a dealing and there was two people up there, they just sit there, drunk a couple beers, and talk for a couple more hours. That's how it is around here. If it was somebody stealing or something like that. I think, and this is my opinion, I'm going to put this out here. It's just my opinion. Based on what I saw in the transcripts, I think either a whore killed him or she got him killed. And I know I don't talk like that very often, but if it's a dog, it's a dog. I mean, she's the one that had to take a shower before she could even think about calling the law and telling them that he had been shot. She remembers to get the beer in her purse out of her floor. Think about that. There was beer in the floorboard of the passenger side, according to her, which they later found in the back of Marlowe's vehicle. She said that she got the beer because she thought it would calm her nerves. We read it, did we not, Arctic? Her words.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You tell me one person in this chat that if you were sitting beside the man you claim to love and it's so graphic that his brain matter gets into your hair, are you thinking about the beer in the floorboard?
No. Nope.
Me either. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think I would have had a hard time leaving.
Well, yeah.
I would have had a hard time leaving.
If you want an example of that, okay? Think back to the Zapruder film in the Kennedy assassination. They had to forcibly pull Jackie away from the car because she was trying to recover pieces of her husband's skull.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I've got a book here where Clint Hill said that she was putting JFK's brain matter like it was going to fix things back down in his skull. and that she didn't want nobody to see him like that. And then he gave his jacket to lay over top of him. Now, I'll go further with that with a personal experience. And we can all say we would do what I do this and I do that. I can only speak about what I did do when I was faced with a tragedy. The most traumatic moment of my life was when my house caught on fire. And I had 2 kids in it. I can't explain it, but it's almost like my insides knew they were gone before I even took off to even think good enough to call 911. Because during that time, I was trying to get back into that home. So when I say that I don't even think that I would have been able to leave that cemetery, if it was a random shooter on the mountain, I would have probably got shot. More or less, go home, take a shower, and then debate on calling the law. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Now, like I said, everybody reacts differently. There is no blueprint to how people should react during a tragedy. But going home and taking a shower, I don't think is in anybody's wiring unless they have something to do with it.
It certainly wouldn't be the first thought that crosses a person's mind. I don't care. You can say there's no guidebook, which I agree with. There's not. But your first thought, I don't care who you are in a tragedy like that, should not be, oh, I've got brains all over me of this man that I care for. I'm going to go take a shower.
No, I wouldn't have even thought of that. For one thing, I would probably not have showered, thinking there may be something on me that might convict the person that did this.
And why would law enforcement let her go home and take a shower? Well, I mean, she got there before she called the cops, I guess, but still,
But
everything's
are you
so,
going to
so
believe the word of somebody that did that?
well, that's true too.
I mean, if I was put myself in law enforcement shoes, if I got there and they said, well, she took a shower, that's a red flag. The other guy isn't even here. He's walked off to his other brother's house, and the other guy went home and went to bed. To me, that says 3 guilty people. Now, who pulled the trigger? I think it was her or Jeff. And I'm more prone to believe her that it was her because she was the one with everything on her. Now, I'm not convinced and never I mean, since I've looked at these photos, I'm not convinced that he was shot on that graveyard. I'm not convinced that he was shot there. And if I'm being honest, I don't think law enforcement was. I think that's why we got so many pictures of his home.
That may be. But my question is, and we may not even know, I don't know if you've talked about this before or not, but did they collect her clothes? Did they collect Jeff's clothes? Did they collect anyone's
No,
clothes that was there?
the only person's clothes that they collected was Marlowe's. And it was a random pair of pants that they thought he may have been wearing that day. No,
See,
they
okay,
didn't
that's a
collect
good
it.
question. I don't think they even tested her for gunshot residue. I don't think they tested anyone for gunshot residue.
Well, even if they did, I mean, it would have been off of her because she took a shower.
That's true too.
And I mean, Jeff went to his other brother David's house. After he got there, he walked in the dark. First of all, if you just witnessed that and you wasn't prepared for it, are you going to walk down the road in the dark? No. Not the length of where these houses were apart. And why wasn't she scared unless she already knew she wasn't the target? Well, she acted like she was scared to death, Nicole, but nothing tells me that. If you are of sound enough mind to get your beer out of the floorboard, you're not too scared. You're not in a rush to get out of that vehicle like she wants everybody to believe, in my opinion. No, they didn't. Her telling them, yep. No, they didn't collect no clothes. That she got a shower should have been reason to get her clothes. Yep, it should have been. And they should have
Well, if
asked for
you're
them.
if you're treating it as a crime scene and you're trying to figure out who did this, to me, you would want to collect everyone that was at that scene's clothes. Period, regardless of whether someone took a shower or not.
Yeah. Now, another thing, and I'm going to paraphrase this, that I find odd. Michelle read it, actually. It was like one of the first on this episode. Marlo, when he petitions the court for a new trial, he sounds so intellectual. I mean, it's like he overnight got him a law degree. There's one sentence in there that maybe he threw in, but I'm not convinced he did the rest. And I mean, it was pro se at that time. And that sentence would have been, yes, Jeff may seem like he don't have all his oars in the water. Okay. When I look back the other day, going through these papers, he's writing letters, wanting to hear from his petition for a new trial. And it's worded like this. This is Marlo. I'm down here at this jail. I mean, it's not even worded the same way. So who helped him with that? I think somebody was helping him from Jump Street, to be honest with you. Jean, her story changes all the time. Like I said, she couldn't tell a straight story with a ruler. And Jeff's changes too. Like, I was trying to get through the transcripts from the first trial and getting it all in order because you should have saw the way that they handed me these papers. And when I was going through them the other day, of course, I had to go through all the other papers. Well, in that second trial, he tells he's at a different spot than he was at the first, in the first trial, which I know people haven't heard Jeff's testimony. You will. But, like, why is that? I don't understand why they just took Jean's and Jeff's word on it and tried to prosecute Marlo from Jump Street and investigate them. Didn't investigate all three people. There was 3 people on that cemetery, and 3 people should have been looked at. I find that not likely, but he could have. Let me see here. Did he have an attorney friend? Marlo? Actually, yes. I wouldn't say a friend, but his sister-in-law for a long time worked in county attorney's office. But now, did she help? I don't know. Or so I hear. So, I mean, from everything I've seen, I think Jean's the guilty party, in my opinion.
I've been saying that since episode 1. I mean, the
Now,
evidence and everything points directly at her.
Now, I do feel like they all 3 knew what was going to happen. I think Either her or her son pulled the trigger, but I think every one of them is guilty. I don't believe Marlowe's tale that he got sick at Ball's house, went out to the car, and ended up passing out, and he woke up after the fact when Jeff run into a ditch. I don't believe that. What was her motive? Well, like I said earlier, in that year, Uncle Ball had stabbed her son. They got in a fight and he had stabbed him. When
Not to
Uncle Ball
mention
went to
that she
jail,
had been in a relationship with Marlowe at one time, you
with
said.
the Mora. Yep. Yep. When Uncle Ball went to jail for stabbing Jeff, her and Marlowe got into a relationship. She did not have the best name. When I said she's when I said she's a whore, that was exactly the way she's been described her whole life. I can't help but think money and cheating were a motive. Well, I mean, he did have that money the day before. Where did it go to?
Her legs spread faster than the butter in Paula Dean's kitchen.
Oh, yeah. I like that article. My daddy always said there was two people you didn't trust because both would get you killed. And that's a coward and a whore. In this case, I think it's a little bit of case of both. One thing that I've always remembered, Arctic, and I've not really talked about it too much. I don't think I have talked about it on here. I've talked about the fish fry, but her and Uncle Ball kind of had words that day. And I remember her saying, he's going to fool around. I'm going to have to kill him. And I know she may have just meant it as word salad or what have you. But that has always been in my mind, her saying that at her house that day. Sorry, I was explaining this to my husband, and he said, is his opinion it was her or her son? And Marlowe took the file. Yep, because he knew he wouldn't get much time. I don't think he actually knew he was going to be taking the file. I think originally they wanted it to look like her and Uncle Ball was up there to rob a pot patch, and that the pot patch owner had shot and killed Uncle Ball, because that was her story out of Jump Street. But nothing added up. For one thing, if you went down there right now in 2025 to that graveyard and you started walking down this road, chances are you're going to make it to your destination before you see a vehicle. You're not going to just be hitching a ride out of this holler. And that's now. So back in 87, there was even less traffic. They also speak truth when no one is listening. Okay. And I'm glad CLK said that, because throughout the years, Jean has got drunk and said to people that she killed Uncle Ball. There used to be this thing on the internet called Topics. Does everybody remember those? It was kind of like a gossip thing. Well,
yeah, it's kind of like Reddit before Reddit.
Yeah. Well, when my cousin did the interview with the news station back in 2011, people made a forum on there. And I mean, there was one person trying to say he was Uncle Ball's son and wanting her to meet him and everything like that. But there was people in there said, get a redhead drunk, and she says a lot. And said that she had actually admitted to killing Uncle Ball.
Well,
Sarah Michelle.
that would make sense to me.
Yeah, Flies, that's true too. Because another thing, these two got on the stand and said Marlo did this. Well, when Marlo got out of jail and got off, like a not guilty verdict, they all hung out again. They went on being friends. Now, I think that if I wasn't being, if I didn't have anything to do with it, I'd probably never talk to them people again. And now she passed away. Law enforcement never went back and did the right thing. No, they didn't, Dutch. What's so bad is, yeah, there's one person that could be prosecuted in this case, but other than that, everybody else is dead. Yeah, that's right too, Arctic. They destroyed everything. Really, as far as doing the case, it'd be hard to prove who done it. It would just about have to be a confession. And personally, the dead don't confess nothing.
What was their relationship like, Balls and hers, before, in the weeks before he was murdered?
Oh, it was toxic. It was toxic from get go. Yeah, Uncle Ball would drink, but when he was with Aunt Gladys, she didn't drink, so it was kind of an even kill. But Jean did drink, and she was a mean drunk. Loretta said that there was times when Uncle Ball lived across from her that they would get in a fight. Jean would strip her clothes off and hit Uncle Ball. Well, think about this: when Uncle Ball was drunk, he wasn't taking nothing off anybody, especially a woman and her grown son living there. So it was toxic. They'd get drunk, they'd fight.
Had he ever talked
There was
about leaving her?
He had, and my dad had bailed Uncle Ball out of jail, and he went to his grave regretting that. He said that if he had left him in there, that he'd probably be alive today. But when he bailed him out, Uncle Ball was like he wasn't going back to her, but he did. First time he wanted somebody to drink with, he was right back with her. And Lori, she begged him to leave her. He went from daylight to dark different, in my opinion, because like with Gladys, it was everything was sound, but it was kind of traditional. With Gene, he had somebody that was going to drink with him, go out and party with him, and fight with him.
The reason I'm asking is because if Ball finally had his fill of Jean and he was going to leave her, he was supporting Jean and her grown ass son. That would be motive right there.
Well, it would. And like I said, Uncle Ball. Okay, my sister was born in July. She was born the 27th of July in 87. And Dad had bailed Ball out in August. And it was around my birthday, which is the end of August, that he came up there and we had a fish fry. And that's when he cut the head off the turtle and stuck a stick in it, show me pretty much that they could still bite. But little tomboy me made a weapon out of it. But he had told Dad he would leave her. But he, like I said, I mean, he didn't, because one of the last things that I remember her saying was, he's going to keep it up and I'll kill him. And like I said, she may have just been speaking words out of frustration. But as an 8-year-old, that stuck in my mind.
Well, and you take that with what was said on the message boards. I mean, 2 and 2 equal 4.
Yeah. And I mean, when we look at this right here, I can't believe, which, let me find it. Okay. Again, because, oh, and this was the back of Marlowe's vehicle. But that was beside the vehicle. I don't see nothing on the ground. That's Marlowe's vehicle. Let me see here. This picture right here. I'm sorry, but I don't think Uncle Bob could have drove that vehicle like that. Because look how far that seat is up from this steering wheel. Now, again, here, this tall man right here is my daddy with a cigarette in his mouth. That handsome looking fella right there. Okay, the one beside him in the checkered shirt is Uncle Bob. My dad, y'all, I'm thinking he was about 6'7", 6'6" at the very least. Because, like I said, when he come through my door, he would have to dunk. If he didn't, he would hit the door on my double wide. And they're both leaning here. If they were both standing up straight, Uncle Bob would not have been much shorter than my dad.
And Dutchie, that's what I said earlier. You know, if she was that big a hoe, spreading her legs all over town, maybe she had spread them for a couple of officers at some point.
Well, always a possibility. Always a possibility. Very good possibility, actually. Yep, and she did have the hoisms. See, okay, I have a hard time believing he was shot in that vehicle, too. I think she drove that vehicle up there. All the blood in the vehicle looks like smears. It's not what she, I mean, it's not what she describes at all.
And if he was shot in the vehicle, where's the bullet hole? Or holes? I mean, just saying.
Well, that's a very good question. Very good question. If she had hoisms, why didn't local law enforcement handle the case? That is what gets me from Jump Street. Officer McKnight handled this case from the time that they called him. It was him and KSP, and which he worked for KSP too. So why the county didn't handle this case, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. But nowhere in the documents, Michelle seen them as much as me, nowhere in the documents is it documented that anybody from Knox County investigated this case. Yeah, that you're right. Shady people doing dirty stuff and getting off scot-free. Well, SG, I mean, they had his number. They Officer McKnight was who was asked for. That's who showed up. So, and like I said, when we get on into these transcripts, the rest of them, you're going to hear the word confidential informant more times than you care to.
On SG, that's what I'm saying. I asked for a specific person. Officer McKnight by name. Maybe she had some type of hoeing relationship with him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, this is the only case where you'll find state come in and covered it from Jump Street to the court. Not one time did the officers in Knox County cover this. Yeah. Well, you can ask Michelle. And I say this because me and her, we've sat on like the computer and looked at these for hours. They said because they thought he was a pretty fair guy. My question's, how would you know that? Which one was the informant? Well, there was one that had to go to see their probation officer the week after Uncle Ball was murdered, and that was her son. He already at 17 had charges. Who just going to call an officer on his phone? Well, the way that they did it was that it would, now keep in mind, wasn't cell phones really back then. It was a pager. They had his pager number to call. Do y'all remember what them numbers was like? They were odd numbers. It wasn't like, in your area you have a 606 and then the other three numbers. We'll do Tennessee, for example. 423 and then maybe 526. A lot of the numbers would start with. Well, pager numbers didn't do that. They might have the area code, but now the first three numbers was a big jumble of numbers just like the last four. Yeah. I think so. Crazy. Oh, sorry. Yeah, like I said, it was a pager number. Or do you remember the pagers?
Oh God, yes.
So you know what I'm saying when I say it's so crazy that they know this number by heart.
Exactly. I mean, back then there were no cell phones, and the only people that really carried pagers were typically law enforcement, drug dealers, and doctors.
Yep. If he had a direct way to contact you. Let me see here. I'm guessing he was the. I think so. Because they had the number, and then you got another guy that was just out riding a horse that night for no apparent reason. I'm telling you, when I say there is so much in this case that makes absolutely no sense, that is by no stretch of the imagination. Me either, Dutch. I mean, I wouldn't have no officer's number now. and it just a cell phone number. Yeah. Well, I mean, they even admit to knowing each other. Okay. Crazy B6. Was you a doctor, a lawyer, or a drug dealer? I'm just picking. I'm just picking. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. We was poor as dirt, so we didn't even have a house phone for the longest. So we sure wasn't packing pagers. But now we've still got Jeff, Marlowe, and Chuck Johnson's transcripts to read. I think those three are important. Then I'll read what got the case turned over to get a retrial, which will blow your mind. The only thing that Marlowe ever was convicted for in this trial was breaking probation. Because in his testimony, because he was a felony offender, in his testimony, not only did he admit to, evidently you can't be around alcohol or other, like have a gun and all this stuff, but he admits to looking for alcohol all day long and drinking all day long and then driving, and he broke probation by doing that on the stand. But as far as doing time over my uncle's murder, nope, none of them did. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't use no personal number. Like I said, when that was with even having 911, it took a few minutes, you all, for me to even realize I need to go call 911 when my home caught on fire, because I was concentrated on trying to get my kids out of it. So as far as to being if I would have had a personal number going through a traumatic event, I don't think I would have remembered it.
That's exactly what I was fixing to say. If you're in a traumatic event like that, and keep in mind, people didn't have cell phones. It's not like you can just scroll through an address book and pick out the name that you're wanting to call. Wouldn't it make so much more sense to just dial 0 and be connected directly to law enforcement? That would be
Yes.
my inclination.
We know at least one officer in every county around me, and I would still call 911. See, I would too. And to me, that's more convenient than trying to remember a number. Because I'm going to be honest with you, on the morning that our house caught on fire, we woke up to it. I don't think I would have remembered my own number, let alone anybody else's. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Now, the way times have changed. Now, I will say that back in the day, I can remember my phone number from when I was growing up that we did have, okay? But right now, I don't even know right off the top of my head my husband's phone number. It's in my cell phone as my husband. So, I mean, right off my top of my head, I don't even know his number. I push his little picture and it connects me to him. Exactly, Michelle. If it ain't already in my phone, I don't know it. I remember my phone number from growing up, but now, like right now, I just say if it wasn't for it being in my cell phone, well, I guess if I had to dial my husband's number, I would remember it, but we don't have to do that now. So, and in 87, yeah, I would have probably remembered a loved one's phone number, but I wouldn't have remembered an officer's number, a pager number.
I can tell you, I can dial my mom's number. I know my number, and I know my husband's. If I have to call anyone else, I'm lost if I don't have my phone to look at the number up.
Well, now, I know I probably should learn it by heart. But I don't know my husband's number by heart. I always just go into my cell phone and just hit his little picture and it calls him. So what Michelle say? Memorization is out the door after age 50. Yeah. I ain't even 50 and it went out the door with me. I know Screwball's number, but he has had the same one for 20 years. Well, see, and that has changed because which Stacy's had the same number for 10 years now, but I should know his number. That's all on me. I'm going to have to just straight up say that, okay, I should know his number, but I don't. It would be smart for me to know it. I know. I may not be around my phone, and might need to say, "Hey, you need to call my husband," and they'd say, "What's his number?" It's my husband. I mean, that's what I'd have to do. But sadly, I'd have to say, "Here's my daughter's phone number. Call her. She'll give it to you." And I'm just being real right now. That's what I'd have to do. But also, my husband is a trucker. In my defense, I try not to aggravate him throughout the day while he's driving. I wait for him to call me. So it's not like I'm calling him all the time. Which makes me sound like a horrible wife. I'm just going to shut up. Well, Arctic, I want to thank you for coming up here, and because it always helps for me to have somebody on panel when I'm discussing Uncle Ball's case. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and when this happened, I was 8 years old. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I woke up in the middle of the night. Do keep in mind, this was the first time I even knew people could die. I had not lost anybody that I knew of, knew personally until this event. And I woke up in the middle of the night that night and I was taking the awful fit. I'd had the worst nightmare. And in my dream, it was another uncle, but I dreamt that he had wrecked a motorcycle. I could see his head everywhere. And that dream bothered me so bad that when the bus ran the next morning, my dad kept me home from school. I've been tore up all night. My brother and my sister got on the bus. And then my aunt came over because they drew water from a well back then. And she had dropped her bucket in the well. And she came over to our house to get another bucket. And she said, there's been a shooting on Nan Riley Graveyard. They haven't gave details, but they said that they'd have more details at 8. And I remember that so vividly because when she went walking back to their house, my other uncle pulls into the driveway and said, Duck, that's what everybody called my daddy. Doug, I need you to go with me to Nan Riley. Ball's been shot. And the dream is something that I can shut my eyes and still remember what it was like. Uh, the events that happened that day that I'll never really fully go into detail on this channel about, I can remember. I can remember everything just like it was yesterday. And then not only that event, but the anger that my dad held in him, wanting justice for his brother, um, it never left. And one of these people, I'm just going to put this out here. One of these people that are in this transcript that I didn't even know was in Kentucky back in 87. He gives a testimony in this transcript, showed up at my dad's house. And him and my dad had been, well, they didn't dislike each other. And he had one of those brothers, one of the Brock boys, in the vehicle with him. And my dad pulls into my driveway, and my husband's outside working on lawnmower, and he ended up having to talk my dad down because that many years later, my dad wanted revenge. And I understand because I would feel the same way. And I feel like, do I think there'll ever be justice for my uncle? No. I'm not so naive that I think after they've destroyed the evidence and everything that there'll ever be justice. But if I can put it out here, because the whole world says the internet is forever, then people will at least know justice wasn't served. And that's the least I can do.
I'm with SG. I understand your dad's feelings completely. And this is why it's so important that we cover these cult cases. Because, like in this particular case, Crystal's dad's no longer here to see his brother get justice. Everyone that is a suspect, or most of them, gone. You know, and if we don't cover these cases and get these stories out there, the victims are going to be forgotten about.
Exactly. And in all these other active cases, you see so many people wanting to get online. And I'm going to tell you from the standpoint of a family member that has waited 37 years. You see people get online and I don't know why they don't arrest this one. I don't know why they ain't got this one in jail. People let law enforcement do their job and pray that they do it. Because do you think my uncle's case is the only one that's sitting out there cold? It's not. Just in this area, I can tell you right off the top of my head, counting my uncle's 3 cases that are cold. Jennifer Bailey, Greta Henson, Uncle Ball. They all died within years, just a couple years of each other. And justice was not served for one of them. Not one. I've got a best friend sitting in my living room right now. Her dad was murdered. And the judge said, I'm going to do something in this case that I've never done before. Because the jails are overcrowded, I'm going to let you remain home. You've got to keep a job and save money for your family. After the man confessed to doing it. How fair is that? These cases matter. I mean, I know
100%.
we may want to talk we may want to get on the train of these active cases. But I'm going to be honest with you. Let's let the law enforcement do their job on those cases. That way, they don't end up on channels like mine that covers cold cases 20 years, 30 years down the line because people decided they were going to put their 2 cents in and meddle with it. And then the family don't get justice. Everybody else may move on with their life, but the family never does.
We've got cold
And that's
cases right
coming
next.
from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got cold cases that are close to my heart. We've got Morgan Nick from Alma, Arkansas, went missing in 1995, and we have Melissa Witt, who was murdered. And both, in Morgan Nick's case, we pretty much know who abducted her, but he'll never face justice because he's dead. Still don't know where Morgan's at. We still don't know who killed Missy Witt. And those families, Missy Witt's mom is gone now. Colleen Nick, God bless her heart, she still holds on to hope that Morgan's out there alive somewhere. But we don't talk about these cases. If Morgan is out there somewhere, she ain't gonna be found.
Exactly. And that's not fair. Yeah, it's hard to go 4 years and not know anything on a case that we all from Jump Street were there for. But imagine if it's 37 years. Now imagine it's your family. SG says, Crystal, you're not alone. I've had 2 sisters who won't get justice. This happens more times than people realize. I'm so sorry. Amen. She said it the best. On earth, my uncle may never get justice. But I am glad that I believe in a God that everybody will stand before and be judged. If not in this life, in the next one. But
And I
these
used to
cold
be one of
cases
those
matter.
people. I'm going to be honest. I used to be one of those people that was like, why? Like, one of my favorite YouTube channels is Gabulocious. I don't know if you've ever saw her channel or not, but all she covers is vintage cases. I was like, well, why don't you ever talk about a current case? But then I started thinking about it. And my channel has now gone in a similar direction. I'll put shorts out on active cases. If you go look at my channel now, my long form videos are all on cold cases.
And I think me and Arctic are going to try to get our schedules aligned and talk about some cold cases. There's not much more to cover on Uncle Balls. And I feel like that I have did what I can in this case. And being the last generation that will probably care, that knew him and have the desire, I'm glad I have put these videos out so people can look at it and say, well, something in Knox County, Kentucky just ain't right. Or to know that he didn't get justice. But there is a lot of cases that I'm wanting to cover. Cold cases are very passionate to me because this is families that have waited years. In the case of Jennifer Bailey, her dad died wanting justice for her. And he never got it. SG, if you ever want to talk about those cases on here, you just get up with me. We will.
Absolutely. Anyone that has a case, anyone that has a case that's cold, or even a current case that you have a flyer for, I'll do a short on that. But especially the cold cases, get in contact with me or Dutchie or Crystal. We'll make sure that they get covered.
Yes, one of us will cover it. Now, Arctic can put videos out faster than anybody's business. But I believe these stories deserve recognition. I believe that they deserve people saying, hey, this is what happened. And this is this person's story. This happened to somebody. The justice was never served because at least it's out here. We try not to get caught up in the drama and all that stuff. So if you all got a
Exactly.
cold case or anything, get up with one of us. We'll be glad to cover it. I'm going to start doing cold cases on Saturday on this channel because, as you all know, kind of decompressed through the week. I'm going to start doing books on my backup channel, Hold My Halo, reviewing books. Now, last week I did it wrong, y'all. Okay. I've had this channel for years and never had a strike. But boy, didn't I get struck with my first video. Not just in Russia, it was globally. When I do something, I do it right. Okay. So I'm going to pre-record chapter 1 of From Here to the Great Unknown by Lisa Marie Presley and Riley Keough. And then we'll go from chapter 2 with me just reading. Or I'll do pre-records. Y'all can watch them. We can maybe have discussions. We'll figure it out. But I know I'm not going to be able to play an audio book because Audible does not like that business. Oh, I have a major timeline. I did. I figured out his passing to the minute. They didn't find him. Oh, man. Yeah, go ahead and drop my. Oh, she did. Man, you are on it, girl. Let me see her. Did I pass it up? Okay, I know I just saw my. You can email me at codecasecrystal.gmail or at gmail.com. Or just reach out to us, either one of us. We've all got, I think we've all got Facebook pages by our YouTube name too. So if you'd rather reach out like that. And when I say Michelle is the mother of a FOIA requester, she is the queen. She don't care to throw out a thread or two to get the FOIAs either. I thank God for her because I don't think I would have had these documents that I have if it had not have been for Michelle.
Absolutely. Michelle is awesome. Every one of us, I think, brings something to the table. And I'm just glad that we all work together so well as a team.
Me too. And I mean, I'm proud to have you all as a team. Like I said, Arctic can put out videos suffice to make you hit. You say their name and he'll have a video up. Trust me, I have seen it happen. I've seen in Discord somebody tell Arctic they need a video, and next thing you know, you're getting a notification. He's got the video up. He works with the Aware Foundation, and I mean, really out here trying to make a difference. Dutchie, she makes flyers. She's did billboards. Now she's got the merch thing that if you buy those shirts, it goes to a particular charity each month. And you all, this is doing good. People may want to say other stuff about us, but I'm pretty proud of the work that we do, and people can have their opinions. We know what we do. Dutchie is sweet. And Allie helps us a lot. So we just work as a team. So you reach out to one of us, you've pretty much reach out to all of us. Because we'll dig in, try to find something. We know if it's a FOIA, we'll get Michelle on that. And, Arctic does good with putting out I'm not good at doing shorts. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not good at doing pre-recorded videos, which is why I dread doing the other channel like that. I do better like we have done tonight, like bouncing ideals off of each other.
I can do either way. I like doing the pre-recordings because I'm dyslexic and I often stumble over my words. So I can fix my mistakes in a pre-recording where I couldn't if I was live. But if I'm live and I've got other people on panel, I like doing lives too. So
See, I'm dyslexic. So like when we've did Uncle Bob's case and we've done it live, which that may help me with the book club, doing it pre-recorded. Because the videos I tried to make in the past, there's Jennifer Bailey's. I think I pre-recorded hers, and which I am going to go over that case again on the live, because I did do it pre-recorded, like at the main beginning of my channel, and I did it the day I got out of the hospital, y'all. So it's bad. I'm just going to tell you, but that's another case that's local to me that I remember when it happened. I know people that knew her. And I think it's been 32 years. They even had a sketch of the alleged suspects and still haven't arrested nobody, Arctic.
well,
They knew right down to the fact that one went water skiing at Norris Lake.
I'm going to tell you something about the Morgan Nick case that's so close to me. See, when Morgan went missing, short time later, they tried to abduct another little girl, Billy Jack Links did, from the Sonic here in Van Buren. They went, they forensically analyzed his truck, collected all kinds of evidence. They lost it. Somewhere between it going from local law enforcement to the FBI, it was all lost. Fast forward to 2024, they were able to track the truck down after it having been sold several times, and by some miracle of God, they found one strand of blonde hair with enough DNA that they could determine that it was either Morgan or someone in Morgan's family that had been in that truck.
Oh my goodness. See, and to me, that is a prime example of law enforcement dropping the ball, losing evidence. Because, in Uncle Ball's case, when they found the gun, when the confidential informant said that it was in Knoxville, this officer kept it in his possession and then said he took it to Frankfurt himself. The evidence that was collected, he kept it in his possession and then took it to the lab instead of sealing it and putting it in the evidence locker. And then the second that Marlowe was found not guilty in the second trial, they destroyed everything. Made a motion to do so. I mean, there's paperwork saying brown pants burnt at KSP firing range, bullets destroyed at KSP firing range. I mean, gun destroyed at KSP firing range. Why?
Yeah. I'll never understand how they can ever destroy evidence when they haven't convicted anyone of the crime. I'll never understand that. I don't understand how you lose evidence in a crime, especially Morgan Nix, that is nationwide. Everyone has heard of that case. It's one of the cases that has gotten national coverage for the past 30 years now. And yeah, they lost all the evidence. In Missy Witt's case, they misplaced evidence for a number of years in that case, and that was a cluster from the start. They when Missy went missing, she went missing from Bowling World there in Fort Smith. Her car was out in the parking lot. Bear in mind, it took them a week to find her car, and they wouldn't have found that car had it not been because a Bowling World employee called the police and said, "Hey, we've got this keychain that says Missy. We think it might be connected to the Melissa Witt case. Could you come out here and look?" And they found her car out in the parking lot.
That is horrible. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely horrible. Okay, I am going to show this because I have referenced this quite a bit tonight. So I am just going to go ahead and show y'all. I'm going to go ahead and play this. Back the end of September, 1st of October, I called KSP and asked them, was Uncle Ball's case still open? Well, I'll let y'all listen to it. Y'all tell me what you think about this explanation. And I will also say, even though he said that he would call me back, he never has. And there is spots in this that I cut out because my personal information was being given. Here we go.
And hello, my name's Crystal, and I was wanting to know if Otis Randall Abner, he was murdered in 1987, is still on the cold case list.
What county was he in?
Knox County.
That does not sound at all familiar to me. Do you know if the state police worked that case or did the sheriff's office work the case?
The state police worked it.
Okay, now keep in mind, I told him state police worked it right there.
Hey, well, let me get you to hold on just one second, and I'll pull our cases and I'll tell you real quick, okay?
Okay, I appreciate you.
Ma'am, I did not see an 87 case with an Abner as a victim in it.
Okay, so would that be, let me give you a little, can I give you a little backstory of it, and maybe you can tell me why he's not. There was a man that was tried for the murder. Then he got a second trial. He was found not guilty in the second trial. But yet, I mean, there's nobody ever been prosecuted for the crime. I don't know if.
Well, if it's like that, then more than likely it's probably not been a cold case, but there probably just wasn't enough physical evidence to link the perpetrator to the crime. If that makes sense, like we've got cold cases here that like you pretty much read a case and you can arrive at a what you feel like is a pretty solid and confident decision on who done it. Only thing is, you got to have physical evidence to be able to link them to that murder. That's what we get into a lot of times, and it sounds like that may be the situation there.
Okay, so in layman's terms, if they think they have who actually did it, but didn't have enough evidence, that don't qualify for a cold case, is that
right? It sounds like to me that if a person was tried on it, it wasn't. The detectives didn't think it was a cold case, because if it would have been a cold case at that point, it would have went on into the cold case files. You know what I'm saying? Because there wouldn't have been a suspect in it, if I'm making sense. You know, like if they didn't have any suspects at all in it, and that's what we normally get in cold cases. But when you sit there and you read that case, you know, a lot of times in cold cases, those detectives have talked to people and developed suspects, but there's just not enough there for the Commonwealth attorney to say, yeah, we'll prosecute that person on this case. It sounds like to me that with this situation that, you know, there's been enough there that the prosecutors took it to court, you know, and fought it, but a jury has either not found that person guilty, or there's not been enough physical evidence there to for a jury to render a guilty verdict.
Okay, and so in those situations, is it considered a closed case?
Well, I don't know. It would help to know who had the case.
KSP had the case. I told that at the beginning of this call.
You know, like if the state police had that case and you knew, you know, like I can check with our secretaries when they get in here and get going. I can, if you can give me his full name, I'll see what I can find out on the. Let me get your name as well.
Okay, my name's.
And I'm ready.
Okay, my name is Chris.
Right here, I'm giving my personal information.
And your phone number?
Yes.
And who was the victim again? The full name?
Otis Randall Abner.
Did he spell it Otis?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was shot on Nan Riley Graveyard in Woolham, Kentucky, which is in Knox County.
And that was in 1987.
September the 10th of 1987.
All right. I'll check this out further, and I will call you back here in a little, okay?
Okay, I sure appreciate you.
You're very welcome. You have a good day today.
You too.
4 months later, and I've still not got a call back. Maybe the trooper should have finished his investigation before the trial. I agree. I believe everybody should have been investigated. But that is a prime example that if they think they got the perpetrator and they take them to court, your family may not get justice because they may not just even look any further.
Oh, yeah.
If that
Yeah.
person is off.
They completely, which, you know, I believe they had the person in the case, in the Kaylee Anthony case, but they never tried to see if anyone else was responsible for Kaylee's death. I bet you they've destroyed all the evidence by now.
I guarantee it. Because in Marlowe's second trial, he got a not guilty verdict, and a week later, they destroyed the evidence and documented that they did. Yeah. Tracy, 4 months later, and he's still not called me back. And when I called, I'm not calling the local sheriff's office. I called Kentucky State Police. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Michelle, he may
ridiculous.
not know who it was, but I'd say he learned real quick not to talk about it.
That's ridiculous.
There's a
4
lot.
months.
Yeah,
4 months.
4 months,
And they
and
can't
they
even
still not
return a
called me
damn
back.
phone call. And see, this is
And
part
it
of the
sounded
reason why. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. It sounded to me like he didn't even know where the case should be classified at. Well, I can tell you it's a closed case. You want me to tell you why? Because we got a FOIA on it. Am I wrong?
No.
I mean, I don't know, that's what gets me. And I mean, until digging into this case, Arctic, I would say, yeah, it's fine for people to, speculate and stuff about cases, but this case really, really taught me a lot. They really need to be sure they can get a conviction because, like I said, if they think they've got the person, they'll consider it closed.
Well, I've said that
And
for
I
a
know.
while because the case that taught
Go
me
ahead.
that was the case that I just brought up, Casey Anthony. And they made sure that they had all the evidence. They could have convicted her. Now, Kaylee will never see justice. And
Yep.
it's one of those things that bothers me. Quentin Simon, everyone was like, arrest Leilani, arrest Leilani. Well, they were going to arrest Leilani, but you can't expect them to do it until they have a solid case against her.
Exactly.
They did. They convicted her, and now the bitch can rot in jail.
Yep. And at that time, you heard all kinds of creators saying they're not doing anything, or she knows the police, and this and that. And let me tell y'all, they had her number from day one. Never rush law enforcement. That's why people need to chill out. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I mean, digging through this case, it taught me that on a personal note. And if if the roles was reversed and people were trying to rush, if it was my uncle's case that it was an active case and they were trying to rush it to get somebody just prosecuted that they think is guilty and destroyed his case, I would be livid. Because looking back at this case and seeing how mishandled that it was, it makes me so angry. Like I said, I've tried not to throw out speculation on what has happened that night. My opinion comes from what I saw in court documents. Ooh, I'm getting feedback. Just a second. And that's a case that is personal to me. My family has lived with this case for 37 years. I did not do the first live on my uncle's case until I got the court documents. Not the first one. Because I did not want to come on here and give you all stories that I'd heard my whole life. And I'm glad I didn't, because some things had changed. Some things was not the way that I'd heard growing up. Because from one person to another, things get messed up. That's why we've got to stick with facts. Although things may look horrible. If I would have came on here 2 years ago and talked about my uncle's case, it would have looked a lot different. Because it would have been me telling you all what I'd heard. And what good is that? That's nothing but hearsay. It's passed down from one person to another. And I am going to say this. When we get started on the redhead murders, you all are going to see how TBI sees things sometimes. Am I wrong, Michelle? Because there is a part in the redhead murders where a group of students go to TBI because they're trying to identify these women. And they're trying to figure out who may have killed them. And when they're describing these women, one of the TBI officers says this. Oh, you're talking about throwaway ladies. Throwaway ladies. Do you know why he was
Wow.
calling them that? Because they thought that because these women were alleged prostitutes. There's another part in it where he says, "Oh, she had a rap sheet. She had a drug habit worse than my car has a gas habit." And that's what's being said, not on a camera for a news crew, but behind the scenes when they're just asking about these. And you might say, oh, well, that was back in the 80s. Not when this class went. That was a couple years ago. That was in 2019. I imagine not a whole lot's changed.
I can tell you for a fact not a whole lot has changed, which is why anyone that goes missing that has a history of drug use, that has a history of sex working, their cases don't get any fucking attention. Law enforcement doesn't give a shit. Yeah, it was their lifestyle. That's why they ended up dead.
And the same thing happened in my uncle's case. Throughout all of these documents, you will find his alcohol level. Guess what? My uncle, even though he grew marijuana, he didn't smoke it. He didn't do any other drug. The only thing he did do was drink. He was an alcoholic. And they tend to mention that all through the court, all through the hearings. They're talking about what an alcoholic he was, disparaging his name when he was the one murdered. I think they looked at this case and said he's an alcoholic. He's been in jail a time or two, maybe a troublemaker. And they didn't take it serious. Do you think that if a judge's kid would have been murdered on Man Riley Graveyard, that it would have been handled this way? I really seriously doubt it. They'd still be looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
SG says we had all evidence for law enforcement cover up for child. SA prosecutor didn't prosecute, but I understand they have many other cases that they all should be treated with an equal amount of attention. And I mean, that's how I feel.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah, Michelle's right too.
One thing that sticks in my craw is a case that I covered out of Canada. 3 Indigenous women. All evidence says that they're in a landfill. And law enforcement tells the families, sorry, it's too dangerous for us to go out there searching in the landfill. They're buried there. That's their final resting place.
They did for Quentin.
I know. Could you imagine the outrage if law enforcement had said that in Quentin's case?
Oh, goodness. See, that's what bothers me. That bothers me so bad. It's almost like, well, like in their case, they're Indigenous. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of discrimination against poor too. Like my uncle, like I said, we were poor as dirt, y'all. And he was an alcoholic. In my opinion, those was 2 very strong reasons not to really give a crap. Or at least they treated it like they didn't. For one thing, like I said, my other uncle showed up at our house after the school bus ran. My aunt had been over there and said they were going to give more details at 8. When my dad went up there on Man Riley Cemetery, my uncle's car was still there. The officer even says that they left went and talked to Gene and them, and came back at daylight. But they didn't rope it off. They didn't tape it off. That's a crime scene, allegedly.
Oh, we could be here all night, because if you want to talk about a crime scene that was mishandled that led to a case not ever being solved, let's talk about the John Benet Ramsey case.
Oh, goodness. That case, I've covered here, and the people that were in there just walking around in a crime scene. They searched that house a couple times, according to them. Then her dad goes down and goes straight to her, brings her up there, packing her, and then they lay her out, and everybody's still there. I mean, that wasn't handled right.
No, it wasn't. Why did they? I mean, for one thing, why did they allow John's friends and everything to just trample through the house? Why did they allow John to go down into the basement and where he finds John Benet? Why didn't they search that basement themselves?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
That case blows my mind. I mean, I did a live stream on here, and everything that was done was done wrong. So, I mean, I do understand that law enforcement do drop the ball, but I still, even with my uncle's case here, that you saw they did so much wrong. I say let them at least try to solve the case, because at the end of the day, are we qualified? Is anybody on YouTube qualified?
Maybe
To do
Judy
it behind
wrong.
a screen. Well, but he's doing it behind a screen. He's got the experience to talk about it, but he's still not going to solve any case behind the computer.
That's true.
And I mean, I like Duty Ron, but I'm saying, the fact is, there isn't none of us going to put handcuffs on anybody. Not that's did a crime anyway. Well,
I just got a bad visual of Bullhorn Betty and JLR in some pink fuzzy handcuffs.
oh my goodness. Well, you all, I've done held you here longer than my lives usually go, but I wanted to do kind of a recap to kind of bring everybody up to speed, because I do plan on finishing these transcripts. That way it's at least out there in the universe, and then we're going to go to other cases, talk about more cold cases, and I definitely, like I said earlier, the redhead murders will blow your mind. They will flat out blow your mind. To this day, I don't think that they've got the right man. I think that the person that they're saying did a crime, and they decided to just wrap everything up with a little bow. But you will see when we go over that case why I think that he didn't do it. And again, this isn't another case right here in this county. One of them is. So hopefully we can get on to theirs after we get these other transcripts. They're kind of short, so episode or maybe two should cover it. And we're going to cover more cold cases. Going to do that on Saturdays. I'm going to try my best to stick to a schedule.
I'll tell you
trying.
what, I look forward. Well, first, I want to thank you for letting me be on panel with you. And I look forward to covering these cold cases with you. And if you send me the case that you're planning on covering about a week in advance, I'll make sure I'm up to date on all the facts.
All righty. We've got the FOIA for the redhead murder, so I'll get them sent to you, and I'll put them in Discord. I'll make a whole room for it or whatever, and we'll just upload them there and go over what we know on it. It's wild. I'm telling you, me and Michelle was up till 4 o'clock in the morning in the Google car and in the airplane and all the things going down this rabbit hole. We were lost for a while. And you keep Michelle past 12, you're doing good. But Screwball wasn't there that night, and we were up all night in that Google car. It was fun. I'm so glad to meet your uncle. He's short. I'm proud of you for keeping his name out there. Thank you so much. I hope so. I hope I've done it justice. But I love y'all. Remember, it takes 0 effort to be a good human being.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away. As you fade away.
Like nothing I found, my mind overwhelmed. I think that I'm broken, but I really can't help. I know I'm not perfect, but some days I feel far more worthless. Baby, you make me feel nervous. If I still have you, I have purpose. It's all worth it.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. I guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade